In the world of 90 Day Fiancé, love is rarely simple. It is loud, emotional, controversial, and often painful. But every once in a while, amid the chaos and heartbreak, a story emerges that reminds viewers why they fell in love with the franchise in the first place. This is not just a story about romance. This is a story about survival, transformation, and the courage to believe in love again. Jasmine Pineda has never been a stranger to the spotlight. From the very moment she appeared on 90 Day Fiancé, she became impossible to ignore. Her beauty, her fiery personality, her emotional honesty, everything about her demanded attention. Some viewers loved her instantly. Others criticized her harshly. But one thing was undeniable: Jasmine was real. She didn't hide her emotions, even when they were messy, uncomfortable, or overwhelming. Her past relationships were filled with intensity. Love, for Jasmine, often felt like a war zone, filled with passion, jealousy, tears, and heartbreak. Every argument played out in front of millions. Every breakdown became a headline. Fans watched her give everything she had, only to be left questioning whether true love would ever be gentle with her. For a long time, many believed Jasmine's story would always follow the same pattern: deep emotions, explosive conflict, and painful endings. It felt like destiny had already written her role, the woman who loves too hard in a world that doesn't love her back the same way. But destiny, it turns out, had other plans. When Branis entered the picture, there was no dramatic entrance, no shock announcement, no immediate fireworks. And that, perhaps, was the first sign that this story would be different. Matt was quiet, calm, observant. He didn't try to overpower Jasmine's personality or compete with her emotions. Instead, he listened. Where others argued, he paused. Where others reacted, he responded. At first, fans didn't know what to make of him. Was he too calm? Too normal? Too boring for someone like Jasmine? Skepticism spread quickly. Many viewers questioned whether this relationship would last. After all, Jasmine's past had taught fans to expect chaos. Peace felt unfamiliar, almost suspicious. But as weeks turned into months, something extraordinary happened. Jasmine began to change, not in a forced or artificial way, but naturally. She smiled more. She spoke differently. There was less defensiveness in her voice, less pain in her eyes. For the first time in a long while, she seemed safe. This wasn't the Jasmine who was constantly fighting to be heard. This was a woman finally being listened to. Matt never tried to fix Jasmine. He never labeled her emotions as too much. He never dismissed her fears. Instead, he validated them. He stood beside her, not in front of her. And for Jasmine, that made all the difference. Their connection didn't explode, it grew. Slowly, quietly, authentically. Behind the scenes, conversations deepened. They talked about values, about trust, about the future, about what it truly means to be partners rather than opponents. Jasmine began opening up about her past wounds, the betrayals, the abandonment, the fear of being loved one day and left the next. And Matt stayed. That consistency, so simple yet so rare, began to heal parts of Jasmine that had been broken for years. Fans started noticing the shift. Social media comments changed tone. Where there was once criticism, there was curiosity. Where there was doubt, there was hope. People began asking the same question over and over again. Is this real? The answer, slowly but clearly, appeared to be yes. As their bond strengthened, rumors began circulating. Quiet whispers at first. Then louder speculation. Were they talking about marriage? Were wedding bells finally ringing for Jasmine Pineda? For long-time viewers, the idea felt almost unreal. Marriage had always seemed like a distant dream for Jasmine, something she wanted deeply but feared might never truly happen in a healthy way. She had given her heart before and paid a heavy price. Trust, once broken, is not easily rebuilt. But this time felt different. Jasmine wasn't rushing. She wasn't chasing validation. She wasn't begging for reassurance. Instead, she was standing confidently beside a man who showed up every day, not just with words, but with actions. Sources close to the couple suggest that conversations about marriage didn't come from pressure or expectation, but from alignment. They talked about building a life, not just planning a wedding. About partnership, not performance. About choosing each other even when the cameras stop rolling. And that distinction matters. Because in the world of reality TV, love can sometimes feel like a storyline. But what Jasmine and Matt were building felt private, intentional, and real. The idea of a wedding wasn't about proving anything to the audience. It was about honoring a connection that had survived doubt, judgment, and the weight of Jasmine's past. Still, questions remained. Was Jasmine truly ready to trust again, fully and completely? Could Matt handle the pressure of being with someone whose life had been lived so publicly? And perhaps the biggest question of all, could love really win after everything? As fans eagerly watch and speculate, one thing is clear: this is no longer just another 90-day fiancé romance. This is a redemption arc. A second chance. A reminder that even the most broken love stories can find their way back to hope. And if wedding plans are truly on the horizon, they won't just symbolize a union between two people. They will represent healing, growth, and the powerful truth that love, when it's right, doesn't have to hurt to be real. This is only the beginning. As Jasmine Pineda and Matt Branis' relationship continued to unfold, the conversation around them began to change, dramatically. What once sounded like hopeful speculation slowly evolved into serious discussion. Fans weren't just asking if they were happy anymore. They were asking when the next step would happen. Wedding rumors didn't explode overnight. They simmered. Small clues began appearing, subtle comments, meaningful glances, carefully chosen words in interviews and social media posts. Jasmine started talking about forever not as a fantasy, but as a plan. She spoke about stability with a confidence that felt new. For someone whose past relationships were marked by emotional unpredictability, this calm certainty spoke volumes. Insiders close to the couple suggest that marriage conversations weren't dramatic or rushed. There were no ultimatums. No public pressure. Instead, they were quiet, intentional talks held away from cameras, late nights discussing expectations, fears, finances, family, and the reality of merging two very different lives. And that's where the real test began. Marriage isn't just about love, it's about endurance. Jasmine knows this better than anyone. Her past taught her that passion without trust can quickly turn into pain. So this time, she asked the hard questions. She didn't romanticize red flags. She didn't ignore discomfort. She confronted it. Matt, in turn, didn't shy away. He didn't promise perfection. He promised presence. He acknowledged that loving Jasmine meant understanding her history, respecting her emotional depth, and standing firm even when things got heavy. That honesty strengthened their bond, but it also exposed them to scrutiny. Not everyone believed in this relationship. Some fans questioned Matt's intentions. Others doubted Jasmine's ability to maintain emotional balance long-term. Critics argued that reality TV relationships are built on pressure, not authenticity. And a few voices went even further, suggesting that marriage would only magnify unresolved issues. The noise was loud. But Jasmine had reached a turning point in her life where outside opinions no longer dictated her happiness. For the first time, she wasn't performing love, she was living it. What made this chapter so compelling was the contrast. In previous relationships, Jasmine often fought to be understood. With Matt, understanding came naturally. Where there was once volatility, there was now vulnerability. Where there was once fear of abandonment, there was reassurance through consistency. That didn't mean everything was perfect. There were still disagreements. Still moments of doubt. Still emotional conversations that tested patience and trust. But the difference was how they handled those moments. Instead of escalating, they communicated. Instead of withdrawing, they leaned in. That's the kind of foundation marriage is built on. As wedding speculation grew, fans became emotionally invested. Social media platforms filled with debates, predictions, and emotional reactions. Some viewers expressed pride. Seeing Jasmine evolve felt like watching a friend finally find peace. Others remained cautious, reminding everyone how quickly reality TV narratives can change. But even skeptics admitted one thing: this version of Jasmine felt different. She wasn't chasing validation. She wasn't trying to prove she was lovable. She knew it. And Matt treated her accordingly. Behind closed doors, discussions about a wedding became more detailed. Not just someday, but how. What kind of ceremony? What kind of life? What compromises would be necessary? Jasmine, once impulsive in love, now approached commitment with maturity and clarity. She understood that marriage wouldn't magically erase insecurities or past trauma. But she also knew that choosing the right partner could make healing possible. Still, the weight of forever is heavy. Marriage means permanence, responsibility, growth. It means choosing the same person even when emotions fluctuate. For someone who has lived through emotional extremes, that idea can be both comforting and terrifying. Jasmine didn't ignore that fear. She acknowledged it, and Matt didn't dismiss it. Instead, he reassured her that fear doesn't mean doubt. Sometimes, it means you finally understand what's at stake. That realization marked a critical shift. This wasn't a fairy tale romance built on fantasy. It was a real relationship grounded in effort, communication, and mutual respect. And that's why the possibility of a wedding felt meaningful, not performative. As fans wait for confirmation, one thing is undeniable: Jasmine and Matt are no longer experimenting with love. They are protecting it. And if marriage is the next step, it won't be because of cameras, contracts, or expectations. It will be because two people decided that what they built together was worth committing to, fully and honestly. But the journey isn't over yet. Because with love comes pressure. With commitment comes sacrifice. And with marriage comes a future that will test everything they believe about each other and themselves. And that's where the story gets even more intense. Every love story reaches a moment where questions must be answered, not by words, but by choices. For Jasmine Pineda and Matt Branis, that moment didn't arrive with fireworks or dramatic announcements. It arrived quietly, honestly, and with a depth that could not be faked. After months of speculation, emotional growth, and careful consideration, the idea of marriage was no longer abstract. It was real, tangible, heavy with meaning. For Jasmine, this decision carried more weight than Matt Branis' love story did not begin like a traditional fairy tale. It was about started under the intense spotlight of reality television. It was about choosing where emotions are amplified, after years of conflicts are magnified. It was about risking heartbreak become public discussion, knowing how deeply their journey from appearing on 90 Day Fiancé to sparking serious wedding rumors. Jasmine had spent much of her life being labeled misunderstanding, too emotional, resilience, too intense, and an unrelenting desire to make love work despite overwhelming odds. She believed love had to be painful to be real. Captured the attention of viewers with her fiery personality, that jealousy, unapologetic honesty, and emotional depth was proof. Known for wearing her heart on her sleeve, she was never afraid to confront that love could be steady without being boring. Love, trust, that security could exist without control. Matt, on the other hand, commitment entered the picture with a calmer exterior. It required more reserved and grounded. As the conversation about marriage a dynamic final stage, complementary Jasmine didn't ask herself if she was in love. From the very beginning, their relationship was shaped by distance. The real question was whether she felt safe enough on their own, but when layered with cultural differences, language barriers, and the expectations of reality television, understood the responsibilities he was stepping exponentially. Loving Jasmine and Matt were not just trying to understand each other, holding it. They were doing so while cameras rolled and millions of viewers formed opinions in real time. It meant choosing empathy over showcased moments of genuine connection. For him, wasn't about late-night conversations filled with laughter. It was about shared dreams of a future together. Sources suggest that when the decision was finally made, closing the physical distance between them. There was no grand gesture designed for the audience. Beneath the chaos, just two people acknowledging that what they had was rare tying them together and worth protecting. However, if wedding plans are moving forward, they represent something far deeper than a ceremony. Fueled by past relationship trauma and the pressure of public scrutiny. They represent a woman Jasmine's emotional reactions were often misunderstood as instability. A man who chose consistency, while Matt's attempts at rational problem solving were sometimes perceived as emotional detachment. Not because of pressure. These
but
differences
because of
created cycles of conflict.
Fans who followed
Jasmine's journey
in
from the
private
beginning
but on national
understand
television.
the magnitude of
One
this
of the most
moment.
defining aspects
They've seen
of their
her
early
at her
journey
lowest,
was how openly
crying,
Jasmine
doubting
expressed
herself,
vulnerability,
questioning her worth.
She spoke candidly
They've also
about
seen her
insecurity,
strength,
her
fear of
honesty,
abandonment,
her refusal
and the
to
pain
give
of
up
not
on love
feeling
even
chosen.
when it hurt.
For many
This
viewers,
potential marriage
this
isn't
honesty
a fairy
was
tale
relatable
ending.
and raw.
It's a
For
realistic
others,
one.
it was
There
polarizing.
will be challenges
Yet it was
ahead.
impossible to ignore
Marriage
that her
doesn't
emotional
erase
transparency
insecurity.
stemmed from a deep desire
Life doesn't
for
stop
reassurance
testing
and
love
long-term
once vows
commitment.
are exchanged.
Matt,
But
meanwhile,
what Jasmine and
struggled
Matt
to
have
balance
built gives them
giving
something
Jasmine
powerful,
emotionally
a
while also
foundation,
protecting his own
a
boundaries.
foundation of communication.
He often appeared caught
instead of
between wanting to
conflict,
calm the storm
of
and not
understanding
knowing how to
instead
navigate
of
emotions
accusation,
expressed at such
of
an
growth
intense level.
instead of fear.
This mismatch
And that's
in
why
emotional
this story
communication
resonates
became
so
one of the
deeply,
relationship's
because it's
earliest
not just
hurdles.
about two people.
Family
from
and
a reality
friends
show
also
getting
played a role
married.
in shaping
It's
their
about
narrative.
transformation.
Loved ones
It's
expressed
about
concern
choosing
about the
the
pace
better.
of the relationship.
It's about proving
the intensity
that even
of
after
arguments
public heartbreak,
and the sustainability
personal
of
mistakes,
their bond
and emotional
These
scars,
external voices,
love can
though
still
well-intentioned,
when it's built the
added
right
another
way.
layer of pressure
For
that
Jasmine,
neither Jasmine
this
nor
chapter
Matt could
is not
fully
about
escape.
proving critics
Despite
wrong.
these challenges,
It's about finally
what kept them
choosing
together
herself
was persistence.
and choosing someone
Time
who
and
chooses
again,
her back.
they chose
For Matt,
conversation over
it's
silence
about standing
and
beside a woman
reconciliation
who has
over
survived
walking
storms
away.
and still
Even when
believes in the
breakups
sun.
were hinted at,
Whether the
or
wedding
briefly
happens
occurred,
tomorrow
there
or
was
down
always
the
a
line,
pull drawing
one
them
thing
back
is
toward each
undeniable.
other.
This
This
relationship
pattern
has
revealed
already
something
changed
crucial.
both of them.
Neither was
And for
ready
fans
to
watching
let go.
from the outside,
As the season
it offers
progressed,
something rare in
viewers
reality
began
television.
noticing
Hope
subtle
that love
changes.
doesn't have to be loud to be
Communication
powerful,
improved,
and that sometimes
apologies
the
became
strongest
more sincere,
romances are the ones
and there was
that
a
grow
growing
quietly
sense of emotional
away from the
maturity
noise.
on both sides.
Because in the end,
Jasmine
love
started
doesn't win
expressing
by
her
being
needs more
perfect.
clearly rather than
It
through
wins
emotional
by
outbursts.
being real.